Hello everyone. Welcome to this video of how to crack St. Xavier's entrance test. My name is Durga Sankar. I'm the National Chief Mentor with UG Management at IMS Learning Resources. And in this video, I will take you through the end-to-end detail that will help you in order to know the best way to crack St. Xavier's entrance test. We have divided this video into 4 parts. First, the courses that offer admission based on the entrance test and the selection process associated with it. The paper pattern, section-wise topics that you need to focus on. And finally, the preparation plan along with the overall strategy that you need to follow through. Now, though St. Xavier's College in Mumbai offers a wide range of undergraduate programs, the Xavier entrance test is required majorly for students who are aspiring to get into the programs of Bachelor's of Arts in Mass Communication and Journalism, which is also known as BMM, and BMS, which is Bachelor's in Management Studies. Now, for these 2 programs, the selection process is based on 2 components. Number 1 is the entrance test, which shortly is called as XET. It is scheduled to happen from 7th to 11th of June. From 7th to 9th, the exam is conducted in the test centers out of Mumbai. And for all cities outside Mumbai, the exam is scheduled to happen on 10th and 11th of June. Now, the final merit list or the admission offer is based on a composite score calculated by giving 60% weightage to the written test score and 40% weightage to the 12th marks. Yes, the 12th marks carry almost equal weightage as that of the entrance test score. Now, St. Xavier's seat matrix has 4 different categories. There are certain seats reserved for management quota and then for Christian community, others, and also there's a further classification with respect to the board from which the students have studied their 12th. To know all these details about the seat matrix, the number of seats in each category, please refer to the form filling guidelines video on St. Xavier's entrance test that we have released earlier. Moving on, the paper pattern is slightly different for both the courses of BMS and BMM. So the BMS course structure, the test pattern for this year, they have 4 sections. As you can see, general knowledge, general awareness, and current awareness has 30 questions. Mathematics and data interpretation, equal weightage. Logical, visual reasoning, and critical analysis carry 25 questions. And English language 15. So it's a total of 100 questions in 120 minutes. Interesting fact is students who are appearing for BMS program in XET can carry a simple calculator to the test center. Now, marking scheme is +1 for a right answer. And an interesting point is that there is no negative marking. There are no sectional cutoffs. And there is no sectional time limit. So it's all up to the students' individual convenience of how they want to utilize the 120 minutes to solve as many questions as possible from the 100 questions and maximize the score. The paper pattern of BMM is slightly different. The number of questions, as you can observe, in the current affairs or GK section remain the same. It is 30. However, there is no mathematics. Instead of that, we have questions of economics. But economics and data interpretation have only 20 questions. The logical reasoning section has more questions than that of the BMS. There are 30 questions. Same is the case with English language. Here we have 20 questions as compared to 15 questions in the BMS section. Now, here also the total number of questions is 100 and the total duration is 120. You cannot consider carry a calculator, and also the marking scheme, the sectional time limit, and other parameters remain the same for both the exams. Let us look at a bit in detail into each of these sections. Now, when you look at the static GK, general awareness section of both the exams or both the papers for BMS and BMM, one major difference is the aspect of media awareness. So for the BMS paper, the section has questions pertaining to static GK and general awareness or current affairs, whereas the same section for the BMM paper also includes certain questions which can be considered under media awareness. Some of the important topics that you guys have to prepare for to do well in this section: for static GK, history, geography, books and awards, sports, etc. And in terms of current affairs, you should majorly focus on the past 6 months, important happenings across. And if you are appearing for the BMM program, then there has to be additional focus on media related news over the past 6 months as well. Now, how do you prepare for these? There are 3 major sources that you can refer to. On my IMS, under GK zone, there is a compendium of St. Xavier's entrance test. So this particular document will give you relevant information which is required for you to prepare for this particular section of St. Xavier's. Also for current affairs, you can refer to the current affairs weekly bulletins and also the weekly current affair updates. And in order to do a bit of a practice before the exam, you can also utilize the practice quizzes that are there along with the weekly bulletin on my IMS. The next section, in the BMS paper, it's a combination of mathematics and data interpretation. Whereas in the BMM section, it's a combination of data interpretation and economics. So DI or data interpretation is common in both the papers. Typically, most of the questions are from the standard 5 formats of graphs: tabular form, line graph, bar graph, pie chart, and caselet. So if you can put a bit of effort in solving certain basic types of questions for each of these graph formats, you should be able to solve good number of questions in the actual test. When it comes to mathematics, so 4 major areas that they would focus on: numbers, arithmetic, algebra, basic geometry and mensuration, as well as a bit of modern math in terms of PNC and probability. Most of the questions are of easy to medium level. So if you work on certain basic level of questions and get yourself familiar with the core concepts of all these topics, solving good number of questions should be quite easy. When you look at economics, it is mentioned explicitly in the bulletin released by St. Xavier's College that the questions pertaining to economics would be from the subjects that were taught till 10th standard. So if you are familiar with the concepts of economics taught till 10th standard, the section shouldn't be a major problem. In any case, you have certain sources from IMS to prepare for all these 3 areas conveniently. Now, the best way to prepare for mathematics and data interpretation in this short span of time is to pick up one topic or one area a day, quickly revise the basics using the concept videos on the Learn module, and you can refer to the practice exercises on the concept book as well as workbook. With respect to economics, you can access the concept videos of economics under the CUET module, and also you can use the topic-wise tests to do a robust practice on economics. Moving on to the third section, the logical, visual reasoning and critical analysis. Now, as you see, the number of questions in this particular section in both the papers is slightly different. Now, when we look at some of the important topics that we need to focus on, now logical reasoning is all about topics like number series, letter series, coding, decoding, family tree or blood relations, problems based on directions, arrangements, linear circular matrix, clocks and calendars, symbols and notations, etc. Now, visual reasoning pertains to certain pictures which follow a particular pattern. Our job is to identify the pattern and accordingly determine the subsequent picture. Also, this section includes questions from critical reasoning and verbal reasoning. Though they haven't mentioned explicitly, we need to put equal focus on both the areas of logical reasoning and verbal reasoning. And under verbal reasoning, some of the areas that are tested: statement and conclusion, cause and effect, implicit assumptions, analogies, odd man out. So the best way to practice for this section is on similar lines as that of the mathematics and data interpretation. You can pick up one or two topics from logical reasoning and verbal reasoning every day. Do a quick run of the concepts and solve at least one or two practice exercises so that you become familiar with each of these topics and also build certain knowledge base and get the momentum that is required in order to be able to solve questions from these topics during the exam. Now, the last section, and in terms of weightage, the smallest section, English and comprehension. Now, this particular section has 15 questions in the BMS paper and 20 questions in the BMM paper. But overall, the topics that are covered more or less remain the same. Major areas are reading comprehension, passages, and questions based on grammar and vocabulary, which again can be further categorized into. If we look at problems of vocabulary, they can be questions of the type synonyms, antonyms, word substitution, etc. And pertaining to grammar, it can be fill in the blanks or sentence correction or parajumbles, etc. Now, this section is one that would take least amount of time considering the nature of the questions. So if you are familiar with grammar and vocab, it always makes sense for you to attempt the questions from those two areas to begin with. If not, if you are not strong with vocabulary, we shouldn't invest a lot of time on that, but you can refer to the high frequency word list or the vocabulary booklet of IMS and focus more on the reading comprehension and grammar part. Now, I'm sure a lot of us can figure out what the problem is at a random level, but it becomes difficult for us to exactly pinpoint what and why. So it will help if you can quickly do a quick brush up of all the concepts of grammar, which will in turn help you to identify the problems quickly and correctly during the exam. Now, overall, the strategy that each of you have to follow to be able to do well in this particular exam. Number one, selection of questions and time management is very critical. If we are aiming at a score of around 65 plus, then it makes very important for us to identify the right questions. And since it's 100 questions in 120 minutes, we may not have a lot of time to move forward and backward in the test. So we need to arrest that forward and backward movement as much as possible. So once we answer a question or once we read a question, we either decide to solve it. If not, we mark something at random and move on, because there is no negative marking Hence, we need to make sure that we mark all the questions. So the questions which we are unsure of, either we take an educated guess or we mark the closest option. Since there is no sectional time limit, it is important for you to understand the right time distribution between the sections. It can be different for each of the students. So identify at least 2 sections which are your core strengths that you can focus on to score high, and also identify a target from each of the other 2 sections overall, which will help you to reach the number of 65, 70 plus that you should aim for. Now, in the last 1 week before the exam, it is paramount importance that you need to focus on mock tests, the time management, the order of the sections that works best for you. How do you leave questions without spending enough time on that, or without spending additional time than what is necessary? And all can be practiced only through mock tests. Hence, make sure that along with investing time for each of the sections to do topic-wise practice every day, you also take up a mock test and do a thorough analysis of it to identify the areas of improvement. By following this entire strategy to the point, I'm sure you'll be able to score well in the exam and get the best of the chance to secure an admission into it. All the best, and thanks for watching this video.